One is, what is data privacy, and then what is on-chain financial privacy, right? So we can split those into two separate things, but I think they're very closely related. It's like yin and yang. So let's start on the data privacy side because that's what we're focused on here.
I'm a yin and
Um,
yang, right? From my
that's
mug.
there you go. There you go. I didn't even see that.
But
So
yeah.
there you go. That's a good omen. But yeah, just on the data privacy side, I think people think, well, I'm not really that important, or I don't have anything to hide, or whatever else it is. So who cares if people see my data? And it's like, okay, you may think that now, but would you change your mind if you consider the fact that all the data that you're leaking is data that you could actually be monetizing yourself, so that instead of that literal value leak, if you're a DeFi person, you probably think in these terms. That literal value leak is going to a third party, right? That third party is observing you, observing your actions, vacuuming up all those data points about you, and then repackaging them and selling them to the highest bidder. And these are enormous markets. I mean, the data market is much bigger than the crypto market today. And this is happening whether you like it or not, and it's happening with your data. So the first sort of perspective to it is, what have you thought about privacy, not as necessarily even like a human right, but what have you thought about it as a commercial advantage, right? Not just in terms of how can you shield proprietary and sensitive information from third parties who may use it then to their advantage when competing against you, but also how can you literally monetize that data instead of letting somebody else in the supply chain, if we want to call it that, monetize it for you, right? That's part one. And then part two is we're clearly headed towards a world where data breaches have become the norm. You see them daily, and it's companies all the way from 23andMe to Air France to the biggest enterprises in the world, right? All the way down to sort of viral LOL type moments like the T app, and then the other version of the T app, which was like the T app for men, where sure, it was just a small indie app, but at the end of the day, it leaked tens of thousands of people's driver's licenses, private messages, a lot of things that they thought they had been doing in confidence. And just because something happens a lot doesn't mean it can be normalized, right? So there are going to be impacts from this. People's lives are going to be negatively impacted, and there will be commercial and regulatory consequences as a result. Like, yeah, I think that historically there's been a lot of baggage around it, especially because regulatorily it's not been viewed favorably, especially when you look at financial privacy. But the fact of the matter is actually the opposite. It may very well come to be where in the very near future, you'll be forced by regulation to use privacy preserving technology to custody. And we'll get into why you don't necessarily even have to custody that data, but to hold these users' information, right? Doing it is not just an option, but it may actually be forced upon companies in the near future, especially as more and more sensitive data points start to be created and then put out into the wild. And this covers everything from genomic sequencing, DNA data, all the way to financial data, private messages, all kinds of things. So these are huge markets that need to be protected against.